the Mad Hatter Show podcast, and I got a good friend with me. I always say good friend, but all these people I know, man, I've been knowing them for years. The podcast gives me an opportunity to get to know them better. So I know Greg Carter as an incredible producer, director, hometown hero. Put me in his first movie. I don't know why. I had no acting skills. And the most amazing thing about all this, till this day, I don't know how many movies Greg put me in, but I don't know if he thinks I'm a good luck charm or whatever. He finds a way to put me in some role just because. And I know one time when you was on the set, and I don't like to bother you when you're on set because I know people working, but you whispered something to me. You like, yeah, I put you in every movie, something. And I'm like, I never realized that. But this was thought that this person put in for whatever reason. But before I get started with all the questions, what is that reason?
Well, what I try to do is I try to build what is a cinematic universe out of the movies that I do. It's just like with Marvel or with Disney. You know, I try to do a cinematic universe. So in actuality, when you do the TV series or you do any of my movies, you're playing the same character that you've always played.
I did not really realize that it's still the same person.
It's the same person.
Yeah,
so,
it is. I never thought about that.
So if you remember, I've always, for the most part, had you into, I got to figure out a way so that when I get ready to do, like toward the end of my TV Fifth Ward series, how do you go from being a guy that's balling, doing the radio stuff, to driving a cab? Because remember, the first time that you was in a movie, you were driving a cab.
I was.
So it's kind of got to be where it all kind of fits together. But we've seen you, the Fifth Ward TV series is actually a prequel to the movie that I did back in '96.
Wow.
And so
96. That's crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah. So all those iterations of you, whether it's, and when I do a different movie, like it's, Hip Hop Family Christmas or one of those, you're still the DJ. So that's why it's kind of like that.
You told me that, and I never really overthought. I just always like, oh man, it's cool, man. Greg, you just some miscellaneous people. Hey, Greg wants you to do something. I'm like, what's the part? Hey man, Greg just wants you to do something, and you never know till you get there.
Yeah.
Next thing you know, hey, all we need you to do is da-da-da-da. There's nothing to read. Just do da-da-da-da-da. Okay. And action. It literally goes just like that, man. I'm like, was that a good take? Well, they wrapping up and they moving on to the next scene, so I guess it's good enough. Let me ask you, what is that style of directing movies called? Because you move fast. Move fast. You ain't taking no time. It's like, I guess you have a general script already in mind.
Correct. So what I try to do is I focus sometimes less on the dialogue as it is with the character and then the character arc of everybody who's in it. Whether it's, Carrie Hilson or whether it's your character. And so I think about things that make a connection for the audience. I want to always feel that my movies and TV shows are rewatchable. Like you can watch it 3-4 times and then, wait a second, is that so-and-so that I caught? And I keep that in mind whenever I do anything, because I'm always trying to work a situation where I have a multitude of different people who are kind of helping me and molding and everything else. My production designer, John Goodall, he was watching a movie and, he was watching a TV series, and he had watched the movie, which was, long time ago it came out, and he was like, wait a second, if this is Mina and that's James and this is a prequel. I said, yeah.
They didn't realize that?
Well, he realized that we were talking, but he kind of, it all kind of fit together.
When he saw it.
Right. And that's the way I see things. So it's always about trying to, find different ways that you can bring different gravitas to a story so you have a much more, so that it has weight and that it has something new.
Most movie sets, the ones I've been on, seem very chaotic. You seem like you don't care about the chaos that's happening around you.
Yes.
What is going on in your head? Because to me, I need everything to stop. I would need everything to stop, one thing to be happening, and it's multitudes of people. I don't care if they just serving food. There's crazy things happening all around you. And you seem, and let me be frank, you seem not to give a shit. You're so focused on whatever it is you're doing in this box that you're looking in.
Right.
How do you keep, I'm just curious how you keep the focus, because I would not be able, you got miscellaneous people that they got this small role, but you got this guy who has a big role who really knows his lines and all this, and you got these different people with different understandings of acting,
right.
or if they went to school or did not go to school, they straight out the hood. Yeah. This guy's been going to acting school his whole life. But you got all, to me, it looks chaotic. Like you can see the people like, oh, okay, I know that guy. He knows this. That guy, I know he just came somewhere out of Fifth Ward for real. Yeah. You know, but it's not just that. It's camera people. It's all kind of chaos. What is your focus, and why are you able to eliminate all the noise that is happening? Not actually, when it's filming time, but literally all the noise that's happening around you, so to speak.
Well, I take the idea, think of it like a hurricane, and everything. I'm in the eye of the storm where it's relatively calm. Everything else is kind of spinning around. And I was joking with someone. They said, everybody needs the line producer to solve their biggest problem. Whether they do hair, makeup, or set design or whatever. And he said, yeah, and I'm everybody's problem. So it's kind of like my vision. I strive to be very clear. Like I actually write out storyboards. I do storyboards so that when I see the movie and I'm on set, I've already envisioned this. It's like a comic book that plays out. And if I were to show you like pieces of like some of my storyboards from every time that you've been in, you would see that I know exactly where people should be sitting. I know where things should be kind of happening, the beats of the show. And then I'm also aware of how everything is going to cut together. When I started out, I was an editor. And so that's powerful to know all the different jobs that are on the set. And I put it on myself to kind of know every job so that when I have someone sitting down and I know how it's going to cut together, and I've already drilled the pictures for my storyboard to know how they should be positioned and everything else, then everything else is kind of like kind of rote, kind of happens in an orderly fashion, although it's hard to see. The other thing, too, is I try to have very intricate conversations with my talent, my actors. So, you always see those movies where they're joking and they're saying, what's my motivation? I don't know what I'm supposed to working on a tight budget and, you have a lot of things to get done to be productive and finish your day. You need to have the conversations where people have questions before you even get to set. And that's really the most important thing you can do. If there's a question about something I'm doing, let's have that conversation before we get on set. Let's have that knowledge of what I'm looking for so you can adequately, get my vision out. And I think that's really how, when I was coming into school, I was actually an engineer. I was going to build bridges and also, build planes and all kind of stuff. But as I began to find myself, my voice, I wanted to be a filmmaker. But really being an independent filmmaker is pretty much all the same. It's all about problem solving. And so that's what engineers do. They solve problems. And normally the engineer is like, the director is like, yeah, you got to solve this problem, but you ain't getting no more money. So you got to figure out how you're going to make that happen without necessarily you think you doing
all these independent movies made it easier for you to make some of the transitions and do some of the movies you've done in Hollywood because of your not just understanding of editing, but like you just said, being that having the engineer's mind, they go in there and say, Greg, we need you to do this movie, but we can only give you this. Can you make it happen? And your brain starts to run. Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
And you make it happen.
Yeah. It's like you get to a point to where you have full confidence in your capabilities, but you also know the capabilities of your team that you surround yourself by. It's one of the reasons why when I get ready to do a movie, I always want to have people I know around me so that I know that they can act in the capacity. When that pressure is done and we got to get this shot done and we got to do this, that oh, we got it, no problem. Boom.
So a lot of the people that you work with on the set are people that you continuously use whenever you do.
Yes,
really?
yeah.
Nice.
There's Spike Lee does a lot of that, and I would begin to understand how that all came together, because you just needed to have that moment where, you can be, you can assess the situation and then make a quick, as they say in football, on field day decision, a decision on field, and know that you're going to be able to execute. And I think that's just that just comes from the strength of just doing so many, like you said, smaller budget films that I knew when I was getting ready to go to that next level, I was going to be able to be thrive and be successful.
This is the part of the podcast. I'm going to need you to cap a little bit. How many movies have you done? I know it's more than 10, but it's so many. Be honest with you, Mr. Greg. I can't count and keep track anymore. I don't even know if you can. So this is also a test as well as capping. But it is a lot of movies and then TV shows. But movies first.
I done probably 40 feature films.
Gee whiz, bro.
Yeah, quite a number, and in various capacities. But a lot of that is directing. And then I would say that I've done TV shows, documentaries. A good like 10, 15, I think we're definitely over 12. So, I think what I do is I bring that same no nonsense, and you have to also be ready to speak truth to power if that's the networks and say, hey, you're not giving me enough, blah, 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 or I need this done, or I need this done. Mm-hmm. And you know that when you've gone through all the different matrix and everything else, and say, I don't have any choice. It's got to be done this way. I need this to happen like this. Mm-hmm. And they say, well, what if we did this? I've already thought about that. That's not going to work. I just need you to do this so that I can make my day and keep going. And I think that's what is important when you're in a position of leadership. You said, you asked me a question, how do I stay so calm? I think it's important that, you see sometimes on these TV shows where they do a parody of a director and he's so, like eccentric and he's stomping around like somebody stole his bicycle. And that shock value of having that moment is...
No, I've never seen you do that.
No, I've never done that. So I personally believe that the director should be the calmest person on set. I think that your set is reflective of my energy. So if I feel like I'm scattering and whatever, then that energy would be translated to what I do, and thus to the departments that have to, make my vision happen. But I'm always, I know what we're able to do and how my demeanor affects everybody else. So that's an important thing. I think as any young director who might be listening to this, your demeanor means a lot. Don't think that, you got to play into the Hollywood stereotype where you're just an eccentric director and you want things. So, yeah, it sounds like it's cool, but actually it creates a lot of stress with the people who are working for you.
How do you deal with egos of some of the actors? Every time I've seen you on set, it seems like y'all don't have no problem. They understand the way you're shooting. But I don't know. There could be that one movie that I never obviously was at because you've done so many of them. And you had the one a-hole on the set. And you have to deal with the a-hole on the set because the big people over here that paid all this money as the executives on this movie said that they got to be in this movie. So how are you in that moment where you the calming in the middle of the storm as you speak of it? How do you handle that then?
Well, what I try to do is the same conversation I have with my department heads, like whether they're doing set design or whether they're doing hair, makeup. We go over what I'm trying to do and the vision, and I'm trying to translate through the work, the craft that they're doing, whether it's the way we apply the makeup or the way we do the hair or where we make the location looks. And I do likewise with my talent. I will go and bring them my storyboards and I'll talk it all out and let them see what I'm doing so that they can kind of, okay, you got a plan. Yeah, no, we're not running and gunning here. There's a plan written on paper of what we're going to try to do. And even though we might alter it or make some changes, there's definitely a plan. And then that way they can feel very secure in the fact that they can make certain creative choices, and they know you got their back.
How freeing are you when it comes to that? Because sometimes you have certain artists, they might have a script that you've given them and memorized it, but they might have something that's adds some sauce to it that you never even considered. How, as a director, how freeing generally are you when they start to tamper with the product, so to speak?
I give enough leeway to understand, if the choices they make affect what I'm trying to do or if it doesn't. A lot of times what you'll find is an actor would think way more about the character they're playing than you've ever thought of it. And I've just always been in a situation where I'm a director and a writer. So even when I write a character and I feel like I know this character balls to bones, that actor has been living with this character and focusing on the things that they know they want to do and bring to it. And when you talk about something, specifically the most recent thing I've done, like Hip Hop Christmas, we're going into a situation now, everybody has played this character. We're working on getting part 3 started. We are working with people who are great actors, but now they've played this character, 2-3 times. They're feeling very comfortable in that skin, and I just need to understand the arc that I'm trying to go over with the movie. So they feel like they are a collaborator with you, and you shouldn't discourage it. I think what happens a lot of times when a lot of people are new directors, they want to be the boss. It's my way or the highway. Because in a way, they might just feel a little self-conscious with the idea that, there are people who might have a better idea than you. You don't want to look weak. But what I find is that you don't have to worry about that. And everybody's ultimately trying to make the best character. So I collaborate with not only the actors, but the producers too. Jamie will say, hey, I want this, or Datari will have this to say, or even the network itself will have notes. And I think that's the most important thing, is to be able to work in the confine of other voices having ideas and still deliver something that's really banging.
Do you ever feel like there's a source trying to exert too much power over the direction of the movie that comes in conflict with your thoughts and opinion, and you have to pull back from the table and be like, you know what? This has to be my way, or...
I think what you do and what I've done is, because I'm so efficient when it comes to shooting, I just give myself time to shoot it both ways. And like if someone really has, I really got to have it like this. Well, what normally happens is that someone who really feels that strongly about something, you want to be able to give them artistic leeway to kind of lean into a creative choice. But you need to know that, okay, when you sit down, they're thinking about their character in this one scene, and they don't want to look weak, or they want to be throwed, or they want to be sexy. You have to think about how that plays into the larger context of the character. And so the worst thing you can do is shoot yourself in a box or paint yourself into a corner. You only shot it one way, and then when you get ready to edit, you find yourself, and I should have did this too, or whatever. So what I find is that when you move really quickly and you're very fast, you get to explore a lot of different options. And what happens a lot of times is people, gee, you were right. This should have been like this. I remember I did a scene in part 1 where this Hip Hop Christmas, where I had a band, like a marching band, that came up on stage and they were jamming and doing this all the thing. And then there were people who were like, well, how is this going to fit in the narrative? And I say, well, you got to see, just let me play. Because they might not have seen everything you shot up to that point. And then I got the support from the people who were with Jamie and Datari. And then we went into a thing where we shot it. And when we
those people are who, for those that may not know?
Well, Datari and Jamie Foxx, of course, is head of Foxhole. Everybody know Jamie Foxx.
I know you're saying Jamie, but they may not have made the connection.
Right.
If y'all looked at the credits when it's rolling at the end, you know Jamie Foxx has something to do with it.
Exactly. So Jamie Foxx, and then the other person is Datari Turner, who's like the president of Foxhole. So when you make these decisions creatively, you want to have some backing, but you also want to be able to have time to explore both. I said, hey, let me explore both. And that's really where being organized comes in, because you can make decisions that you have options when you get ready to edit, which is sometimes 3 to 4 or 5 weeks later. And that's really what you want to do. Just be able to have options. And most people are like, okay, well, if you can get that and what you want, cool.
I'm going to go way back now. We're going to go back pre-96, when you are thinking about going to school to be an engineer, but it switches to, I think I'm going to make movies. What happened to make this switch? Because engineer sounds like a very profitable, stable, even to at this time when y'all seeing this in 2023, it seems it's still, see, if you go into engineering, like a very stable business.
Well,
movie, not so stable.
Yes.
Like, if you would have told me all those years ago, Greg would be 40 movies in, couple of TV shows in, even Greg might say, I don't know how to. I mean, just being honest, right?
Yeah,
But you switched. What was the pivot? Why?
Well, I really loved being an engineer. I really did. And for the longest, I was able to kind of do both. I would do contract work as an engineer, and then I would still on the weekend work on music videos and do different things. So I was always able to kind of do both. But I think what really kind of did it is what I began to see is that, we as human beings were always in pursuit of joy. We're trying to find joy. And what we normally do is we find joy, and then you're like, okay, what happens next? And that is the cycle that we go through. And so I knew that, when I was able to make movies, it just felt different. It felt like it was my calling. In a spiritual sense, my dad is a minister, and that's the language we use when we say you're getting ready to be a preacher. You found your calling. I feel like I found my calling. This is what I was supposed to do: is to tell stories that enlighten and uplift people, and so, and they still need to be entertaining as well. So I think that's why I saw this as not to get too crazy, but this was prophetic. This is what I had to do. And so when I was starting out, what I found is that for every step that I took toward being a filmmaker, and technically it's a step away from being an engineer, I felt like the dream was taking 2 steps toward me. And so when I started to go into the whole thing, it just began to accelerate. I've been very lucky and blessed. Every movie that I've done is always bigger than the one that came before. Or I had more money or more resources or whatever. And I think that that's because I do care, and my journey is not about everybody else. It's not just about me. My journey is about a lot of people that roll with me.
And you put a lot of people on. Let me just say that too. You put a lot of Houston actors and actresses had a chance to be in some of your movies, and still to this day, you make sure that you place. You're really good at putting your Houston people.
Yes.
Like you might. I don't know if you live in Hollywood right now, but you come back to Houston very often and do something. And let me tell you, I respect that, because some people, they might leave a city and they gone.
Yeah.
You leave, and for whatever reason, you will not stay away from this place. You continuously come back, and it makes sense, because this is a guy that started a movie called Fifth Ward. If you don't come back, it probably seems terrible as a human being.
Yeah, no doubt. I think it was the one thing that made me feel that there was always a journey that was going to be, as you. I tell my class, I teach at a University of Houston. I teach film.
I want to get into that too.
And what I try to tell my students is that don't think about the destination when you get into this business. Everybody wants to think, well, I'm going to make a great movie. Everybody's going to love it. I'm going to get all kind of awards. I'm going to become a millionaire. I found that if you think of the journey as opposed to the destination, you'll get far more satisfaction from just thinking about that. I don't think about I got to compete with this guy or that guy. I want to have I just enjoy the journey as I make movies and tell stories, and that's what you do.
Why is it so important for you to continuously come back here and employ half the city and then leave? Because you could easily and probably cheaper make these movies. I probably shouldn't say that with the people that produce your movies and executive produce, but it seems to me that it would be cheaper if you made them in California.
Well, there's a certain level of being cost effective. If you have if you shoot in California, maybe you might save on, airfare or, travel for people who have to come from California to come here to work. But what I've also found is that since I am so efficient, and there's other things too, like there are states that have bigger tax credits than us, like Georgia, freaking Louisiana. But I think because I work the way I work, I actually can make a movie cheaper, more efficiently here with less bells and whistles from a tax credit or something like that than if you were to, go to Atlanta, one of those places, and do it. It's because my crew works for me because they have a passion for what I do and the loyalty there. And that's really the I and the T and dotted and cross. The people who work for me know that I work for them. So, yeah.
I like that. I like that. So you make the switch. The big decision is because you feel like it's in your soul. But still, there's a major audacity. Fifth Ward, I'm going back that far because I'm still in awe how you made this movie. And you got the city involved, like everybody fell into some zombie state trying to be a part. Everyone wanted to be a part of this movie. Rappers, singers, actors, actresses, people who want to be in the business of making movies. And they believe this guy's vision. What was the audacity in that vision to believe that this guy in Houston, Texas, where it's not traditionally happened, could make a movie here?
I think if you look at all the people who have kind of supported me straight up, or either from that, like that old song, "They're the Wind Beneath My Wings," it's really because what I believe, I think they believe, which is I'm always proud and happy for anybody black doing anything positive. And I think that was what was struck, because it did come across as, okay, here's a guy who's a filmmaker, his dad's a preacher, mom's a school teacher, he's from the neighborhood. And, there's a lot of people that claim the neighborhood and can't nobody else claim it because it's ours. But fortunately, people like Jay Prince and others, they just, let the dude make his movie, and because of that, I was protected in a lot of ways. So, I always feel like, I have to always acknowledge that people who were, like a perfect example, this is, that when we were shooting our first movie, we were shooting our movie, and all the things that you got to deal with, you're dealing with. And then some sweet old lady made us lunch, put it in a crock pot, and brought it over to us while we were out there struggling in the hot sun. This was like 96 when we were shooting. Wow. And that just shows you that people understand. You don't think that they... I've always said this to my son and my daughter. 99% of the world lives by sight. 1% lives by faith. And I take that to heart because I move and live by faith. I don't expect something that can go wrong will. I just expect that it won't. And I guess I've been blessed where it hasn't gone wrong, so I just keep going.
In your opinion, has up to this point, has it been Greg Carter has had a great career?
I think so. I was talking to a young filmmaker. His name was Joe Elmore. And when I was talking to Joe, and he said, "Greg, how do you know when you're a good filmmaker?" I said, thought about it. I said, well, it's not how many reviews you get in the newspaper saying your movie is terrific. It's not even, when you think about, you make a bunch of money. I think it's, if someone wants to give you money to make another movie, you're a good filmmaker. So it's very simple, and I think that we because of ego and different things, a lot of times we will complicate the matter. But I think it's just if someone gives you money to make another movie, you're a good filmmaker.
I like that. How does your father, the preacher, how does he feel about Greg Carter's career?
He's one of my biggest supporters. Him and my mom were my family. They were like,
Did they believe that at first when you defer from the engineering dream, which he probably was a big fan of, and said, "Dad, I'm gonna make these movies"? Were they always supportive the whole way through?
It was always supportive, but they wanted to know that, okay, well, do you have plan A, B, C, D? What happens if this don't work out? And, I think that's really what happened is that, I always would have many subtle levels of success, and it wasn't always based on being able to make a bunch of money or whatever else. It was just really being able to continue to make films, learn, get better, get smarter, and then to the point where you're making multiple movies and doing lots of deals, and you just realize that, okay, cool. Never let myself feel like I've made it. I told I'm a big fan of theoretical physics. I know this is going to say, okay, where is this going? But they have this experiment called Schrodinger's cat, and basically it's...
What's it called?
Schrodinger's cat.
Okay.
And basically the way it works is that whether or not you have this cat alive in this box is based on your observation. If you open it and it's alive, and it's alive. If you don't, it's dead. But in both cases, it's equally alive and equally dead until you actually observe. And so that's how I feel about it when in film production. I never take the high road with someone I'm doing a film with. I'm like, oh my God, this thing is never gonna happen. I think I give it my 100% effort, even when I'm comparing that to doing something with a big company. Always feel like it's gonna happen. My good friend, my editor, Sean Blaze, he's like, yeah, I'm going to call you Optimus. Optimus? I said, oh, you're Optimus Prime. You're so optimistic. You think everything's going to happen. And so that's kind of but that's who I am. And I always feel that there's the sun will come out tomorrow.
That's you.
That's me. And when it doesn't, don't feel like it's such a big thing. Never let yourself get too high when things go great. Let yourself get too low when things are not going great.
Got you. Is that the same advice you give? Because I know you're a parent as well.
Yes.
You got 2 kids.
Yes.
So I know you were talking about how your parents were looking at you with option A, B, C, D. Do you do the same? Hey, son. Hey, daughter. You need options 1, 2, 3, and 4 too?
Yes, you kind of have to. And I think, they're like...
Because the son plays ball. I'm not sure what the daughter does.
My daughter is... it's funny because they both... I was an engineer that makes movies, so my son kind of followed the whole movie kind of media thing, and my daughter kind of followed the whole engineer kind of thing. And so because of that, I always have a unique perspective of things when they ask me about what they should do or whatever. It's not coming from a place of guessing. I've lived it. I've had to make decisions about that. And so they often are, they enjoy, getting that advice. Although sometimes you can tell them 2 or 3 times and they don't really listen. And then you finally are like, okay, you got to do it like this, this, and this. And they're like, okay, I'll do it like that. And then when they have success, you're like, oh, okay. But I think that it's pretty common for kids to kind of want to have their own path, whether or not you were successful enough to become president.
So you didn't want them to, be directors and writers? That was not your passion for your kids?
I thought that, listen, there are many different things that I, support as far as, being figuring out what your life is going to be. I told my daughter, okay, I will help you with your singing career. However, you got to do this, this, and this when it comes to your being an engineer. And I tell my son, okay, I will help you with, trying to do this thing. However, I expect for you to go hard in the paint when it comes to being a lawyer. So, it's like,
I like that. However,
yes.
I'm gonna start using that word. I like that.
You have to.
I'm gonna help you with that. However, I like that. I'm gonna use that. I'm gonna call it the Greg Carter. So, son, I'm gonna have to Greg Carter you on this one. However, I like that. Now, how did this all morph into you now being a teacher?
Well,
Professor Carter.
Professor Carter. So this goes back about 17, 18 years ago. I was actually here at TSU. I was trying to work on getting my master's and my doctorate. And, life happens, and you got to have kids and you got responsibilities. So I could not afford to spend money to pay for tuition while I still got to take care of rent and make sure these kids get picked up for soccer practice and all this other stuff. So I kind of took time off from following and pursuing my education. Now, I always loved teaching. I was a teacher when I first met my first wife. When I met her, I was a teacher, and I met her teaching. And so there was something about being and working with kids that I always thought was part of me, again, giving back and my journey not being about mine. So it kind of worked out to where I was able to work with the Fifth Ward Enrichment program, Ernest McMillan, where I was teaching kids how to make movies. This would have been circa 1992-ish, And so I was working and doing and working, and I was working in Fifth Ward, teaching kids. It was funny because when I met Ernest McMillan, he was like, "Well, what do you want to do? You want to coach basketball?" I said, he asked me what I wanted to do, and I said, "Coach basketball, and I can do that." And he was like, "Well, we got people who do that. What else you do?" I said, I make movies. I mean, that's what I want to do." He said, "Well, that's cool. Maybe you could do that." I said, "Okay, cool." And so it built into what we call the Fifth Ward Young Filmmakers project, and I just kept, always going back to work with young folk and you try to get them in a position to follow their dreams doing this. And in the meantime, that allowed me to follow my dreams as a filmmaker, writing stories that were tied to who I was as a filmmaker and as a person from the neighborhood. And as things began to continue to develop, I was always finding myself in a teaching kind of position. I was working for HISD when I first came out of school from Texas A&M as a teacher. And as all that began to happen, I really began to understand the purpose. And so that became teaching in workshops and different things over the weekend, but eventually that became teaching, on the like different organizations like Swamp would bring me in, Southwest Alternate Media Project. They would bring me in to teach like seminars, and then eventually it became okay. Well, you got all this experience. Why don't you work with students again? And that became, the really kind of gravitas of working with younger people and also teaching filmmaking. And then it just stayed with me the whole time. It just continued to stay with me. And then I find myself, years later, my son had graduated from high school, and he was on his way. Because I was a single dad, raised my son. And it was kind of like, okay, if you're going to do this now and you're going to do this, and I kind of felt like I had things under control. I said, you know what? I'm going to go back and try to finish my doctorate. And so it always seemed to kind of fall into place. So I finished my doctorate last year.
Congratulations, brother.
Thank you. Yeah, and I was working with kids at U of H anyway, because I was kind of working as a distance kind of professor. And then that eventually developed into, a lot of the initiatives that they have over at the College of Arts and Valente School of Communication, where I'm doing a lot of things to kind of continue to build and grow. So
was it purpose, or just all this stuff just accidentally just kind of like it happens? It seems like things just kind of happen for Greg Carter.
There was a purpose, but I really didn't know what the end. Again, I was just kind of enjoying the journey, not really thinking about a destination.
Right.
And then everything just kind of led to where it is right now, where I'm a professor, and I've got my doctorate, and I'm teaching, and I'm working with students and everything else.
What's the class called?
Well, it's funny. So the first class I started teaching at U of H was social aspects of film, which is really kind of like a film appreciation class. Like how does a film document social aspects of where we are in American society, whether it's a movie like Guess Who's Coming to Dinner, or if we, that was really a movie about the beginning of interracial dating and whatnot. But then there were other, situations where there were movies that we would talk about the military complex. And so that was the first class I taught. And then as the deal began to come together with CBS Viacom, I began teaching in a class known as Working on Set with Director Greg Carter, which I've taught now for the last 2 years.
That's the name of the class?
That's the name of the class. So
Working on Set.
Correct.
With Greg Carter.
With Director Greg Carter.
Well, it's nice to have a course that you teach that's about you.
I know. I guess it would be hard for someone else to teach that.
So in this class, I learned about what, Greg Carter?
You learn how to make a movie from the first idea to a script to getting it finished, doing budgets and everything else.
Nice.
But then you
said they learn budgets too?
They learn budgets too, but then they work on set. So, and we're trying to do some stuff right now to expand the program so that, not only is it U of H students, but that who are working on their undergrad or either their grad, but we're trying to build a program where, you could have people who are just from the street who are looking to retrain in filmmaking as a potential career, because there's lots of places where you can go and make money doing this. So sometimes it's just a matter of getting trained to do it.
Congratulations, man. I'm going to start calling you Prof. Carter now. I have to change your name in my phone now. I'm just going to put Prof. Carter now. I like that. The director. I'm going to still put director on the bottom there, but I'm going to put Prof. Carter on the top.
I'll take it.
Okay. Prof. What's the next big project, Prof?
Well, we're getting ready to we did Hip Hop Family Christmas, and then we also did Hip Hop Family Christmas Wedding. We're getting ready to do a part 3, which we really don't have a name for, but we're playing with the idea of Hip Hop Family Christmas Vacation. So where we basically have the family kind of all.
When you do those kind of series, are they profitable?
They're profitable.
Okay, say no more.
Yeah, they're
more.
profitable.
Keep on talking.
No, it's
obviously if you keep doing it and changing the names and the narratives,
right.
But people obviously love the characters too, and that's why
people love the characters.
So
I think what you try to do is make sure that you have, again, a sense of a story arc when you get ready to tell these stories. You know that I'm going to go for not just one, not just two, but not just 3, but 4 of these films. Hopefully, when I wrote the original script, I didn't know this was going to be blowing up, but it did. And now that it has continued to kind of keep going, it allows me to continue to build my team as filmmakers, where they are getting the opportunity to work on set and be good quality artisans that can work for other people too. So
I love that. Yeah. I love that. So we got that coming. Any other special projects that you're allowed to talk to us about? Because you director people always have stuff that you can't talk about. So I'm going for the stuff that you can talk about. I'm trying to follow the rules.
Oh goodness! I'm working on a movie called Pick-a-Boo, which is about a dating app called Pick a Boo, Pick Your Boo. It's a romantic comedy. And then I'm also working on trying to get everything together for Fifth Ward season 3, 4, and 5.
Wow.
Finish that story. And then working on some other stuff too. It's historical pieces.
Okay.
So these are the things that I'm just got in my mind,
I understand.
Yeah.
I appreciate you really taking the time, Greg. I think before, when you work at radio stations, you rush to talk to people. And the whole purpose of me doing this podcast, because I don't feel like rushing.
Yeah.
I want to take my time and hear you.
Yes.
And so I can at least ask a halfway reasonable next question after you say something. Somebody watching, like, you missed 10 other questions you could have asked. But I try to ask questions that, because I'm interested in you. And because this person truly has been amazing to me personally, when he did not have to be. I walk away from radio for whatever reason. This guy, hey, somebody call Hatter wherever he is. Tell him I need him on the set tomorrow. I always feel that's what you did, because there's so many different. 3 people are calling me. Hey, Greg needs you to do da 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 da. What I'm gonna do? Say no to Greg? What time I need to be there? Just come da da da. They don't tell you how to dress, nothing. Just come. All right. Greg figures out a way after that. And I've gotten to the point now where I just say, he already has it figured out. However it's going to be, don't overthink it.
Yeah.
Because he's already did all the thinking. He just wants you somewhere in there. So just go do your thing and go back to wherever it was you're going to go. But I really appreciate that. I think that's beautiful of you. I think it's incredible how you come back to the city and you always trying to get that person another role and get that person in there and give that person a shot right there. You just come and grab all these people.
Yes.
And people need somebody that seem or do care about other people and want to see them shine and put them in positions to shine. And no matter how many big stars you have in it, you'll still figure out a way to get your city stars in there too.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not talking about myself, but just a lot of these young folks who are really good actors and actresses that I really respect in the city. You'll find a place in your movie, and you'll find a way to somehow get these people to give you some money so you can come back to Houston to shoot your movie and give all these opportunities, not just in the front of the camera, but behind it too.
Yes.
I appreciate that. So I just wanted to say thank you. I appreciate you for that. I respect you for that. I salute you for that. And finally, do you think you're successful? And what is success to Greg Carter?
I think success is, making decisions, knowing that you have you have a vision that is being, acknowledged. I go back to that example. It's like when you are talking to people and they have these different metrics. Well, you got to win an Oscar to be successful, or you got to make a bunch of money to be successful. I think that's a personal relationship that you have with the pursuit of joy. And so if you only have joy if you win an Oscar, or if you only have joy if you make a grip of money, how painful is that journey going to be, because it's so rare? So just enjoy being someone who makes movies and doing what you do. And that's what I do. I just have a gratitude that I'm able to do what I do and tell stories. And you don't have to worry about, all these other things that are, like part of what people perceive to be a successful journey. So I just say, try to do what it is that makes you happy, and I think that's success.
Professor Carter, my man. Thank you, brother.
Thank you. I'm so with it. Thank you, and thank you, and of course, thank everybody, KTSU, for having me here, and I'm excited.
You always. Thank you.